Okay, so good evening to everyone and welcome to our third light chat on the Temple of Light. And tonight I'm delighted to have Jude coming and introduce herself and speak about what she's up to in terms of where she wants to go and where her soul is calling her, really. And before that, I'm just going to really reframe the light chat as really a place where I really welcome anyone who has had um, an experience and has grown from it and has found like a silver lining, has found a beautiful life lesson and has transformed. It can also be like in the case of Jude, supporting someone with a vision or a dream. And the idea of the light chat is that we are all extraordinary. We are extraordinary women living the ordinary lives and making extraordinary fit into that life. So that's about it. So we're here to support and learn from one another, to inspire and bring hope to people who need it, and encourage and bear witness to new concepts and new vision to move the world forward. So that's the idea of the light chat. So Jude, here you are. I was attending your conscious living and conscious dying the other, was it last week or 10 days ago now? And you had a beautiful presentation and you had an amazing interaction with the women online. I could see how the topic really was important to women who were attending, and everybody had something to witness. So before we go into that, could you I'm going to give you the floor. I'm going to thank you for being here first. And um, I'm giving you the floor, and will you please introduce yourself a bit and explain? I really love last night I had a quick chat about that 10 years old little girl. I like when it starts here, and tell us all about it.
Yeah. So
So go
Florence and
on
I were chatting
anytime.
last night. So my name's Jude Warren, and originally from the UK, from Hampshire, and I've been living over in Australia for some time, up until 2022, and then came back in 2022 with my teenage son. He's now back in Australia, and I'm returning soon to Australia. When I was about 10 years old, I started questioning really things, what life is about. And I was very drawn, even at that point, to Buddhist books and questions about Buddhism and what that was about. And that has been a life um, learning along the way of varying readings and teachings, and also interwoven with that is a love of yoga and mantra, and all the every essences of the path of yoga. They kind of just interweave and over the years with the essence of what life resonates for me when I'm in my flow, and when I'm in my happiest, I'm in nature. I'm surrounded by people that are kind and that are understanding of the path, the spiritual path. Um, So over the years, a bit of creativity. I was an art school dropout for a while, and then went off, started exploring over in the Channel Islands. It was my first explore, learning to kayak around the shores of Jersey. But I went into nursing. It was something that really, the essence that really pulled me was the actual essence of community. It wasn't so much the hospital, it wasn't so much the physiological, it was the aspect of social interaction and the care that we can give each other in community. And over the years, being a nurse here in the UK and over in Australia, it was really the essence of connecting with people and communities that really, made me feel that I was on the right path for me. It felt good when, for instance, community nursing in the Blue Mountains, going to a person's home for a number of days. It could be end of life care, but it could be as simple as a leg dressing. It could be as simple as, knocking on that door and having the privilege of going into someone's home and talking to them while you're doing a dressing and just checking in on them and having a day-to-day conversation that they might not otherwise have had with anybody. So I'm very conscious that we all live in our little houses around the world with our walls and our doors. And there's a lot of isolation, there's a lot of lonely people out there. And the role that I had as a community nurse was, as I say, a very privileged one. And it helped me to connect with people and to show other people other ways to connect. And I still believe that. I still believe that wholeheartedly. There's a different way to connect with each other, that we shut ourselves off through wanting to keep ourselves safe in our homes or in our communities, that we don't want to talk to people because we might be afraid of something. And then when it comes down towards the end of life passage of care, which is something I've always been drawn to, people are equally, sometimes even more compounded by that fear, because they might not be able to express what's going on for them, their emotions. They might not have the people to express those thoughts. A lot of people don't have a family and friends to talk about it, if they've got a diagnosis or they're living with a life-limited illness. So I've seen an awful lot of people over the years all around the world that really just are lonely and wanting a good conversation, a conscious, kind, compassionate conversation. And one of the key things as a registered nurse when you're going into your role is you have a very limited time. You're in and you're out within an hour. That person has, say, a diagnosis and they're towards end of life. There's two nurses. We check their medicines. We check they're okay. We do a very rudimentary check, an assessment. If we're lucky, we have talks with the family to see how they're going and what their needs are. And sometimes it can obviously extend, but more often than not, we're in and out within an hour. And I feel there's a different way. I felt that for a long time, that we need to slow down and we need to have more conscious, slower, more meaningful conversations with each other.
So basically, what you're saying is the structures as it is at the moment cannot support the time and the space that people need to be witnessed, to be honored, and to be seen. That's what you're saying. And so obviously, being a nurse, as you said, you often come towards either during a sickness, a long-term disease, or towards the end of life. So how did you come to identify the whole conscious dying and conscious living? Because you could have geared into another aspect of consciousness in terms of the conscious communication, but you chose this part. So what call you especially in and if you could actually slightly define for us, what do you speak of as we say conscious dying? Let's start with conscious dying and then we can
Okay.
do you have
really, I had a knowing that it was end of life care when I was doing my training, when I was in community. It was a knowing that I had the ability to be there and witness people and to hold space and not fear it. I mean, not fear other people's. Equally, I have gone through my own processes over years. I had when Leo was little up in the Blue Mountains, I was diagnosed with melanoma. So that was, I had that process to go through, and various procedures and things and checkups to make sure. So, that was a time of not a huge diagnosis. I didn't need treatment or anything, but it was a cancer diagnosis. So, and since then, that's, touch wood, that's all good. But having walked that a little bit, as we all, many of us have in various different ways, and faced the ends of our certain cycles in our life in different ways. We face death in many different guises, the death of a relationship or a way of living or a way of being. Certainly in the last couple of years, there's been big shifts, I think, for a lot of us around the world, and myself included, a way that we're letting go of old ways. So really, what do I mean by conscious dying? It does come back to that. It comes back to those principles of Buddhism and that being in the present moment, and being conscious. I was talking to somebody early today, Layla, about being a conscious parent when I was talking to her earlier today. And it's in our sense of being present and bearing witness, as you were saying, that consciousness is, whatever stage that person might be. It's honoring if there's changes in their breath or there's changes in their pain, having that time and spaciousness to say to somebody, explain how that pain is for you, not just medicate it, not just go, I'm, the old way of the nurse to want to go and fix something. To take a stand back and say, I see you, I hear you, and there is time and spaciousness to slow down and for you to express whatever you need to express in that time.
Yeah. And so it's for what I hear, and you correct me if I misunderstand, it's actually your own awareness, your own consciousness that you bring to the person, to bring this person to consciousness if he or she isn't. Is that what you're talking about?
I think they bring themselves to it. You're just
Okay.
you are just bearing witness to it. You're just
Okay.
there's something in the stillness, and for me sometimes the simple act of holding a hand or the simple act of touch, the hands are very powerful instruments of care. Over the years, I remember a long time ago, I was looking after a few teenagers with acute myeloid leukemia a long time ago down in Exeter. And there was one girl who went into remission. She went home, fortunately, and she said thank you to all of us. And she said, turn around, she said, just thank you for the hugs. Because sometimes when you're going into these situations, there aren't always words. And I think that sometimes what I've found over the years is sometimes there's just too many words. And that silence and that stillness is enough sometimes.
So you mentioned to me that that center in America, it's North Carolina, isn't it? And you've inspired the name of your talk of that center, isn't it? So would you, because I actually know very little of it, only what you briefly mentioned, would you explain what it does, what's the mission, the mission statement of it, but also why is it so attractive to you? Why is it appealing to you? Why do you think it's the way to go?
I'll slightly reverse it in the fact that I had, when I was living in the Blue Mountains, quite a strong feeling of a vision of a place in community. And it wasn't a hospice, it was a place in community where people could come to live and die well. And what I meant by that is that it's laughter and joy and young people and old people, well people coming to support the respite, people to die if they are to die, or just to rest, of, nature, overlooking the bush. So that has been a very strong vision over quite a few years that I've had. And then in recent months, I was listening to a podcast of a lady talking about death matters. And her guest was this doctor, Aditi Sethi, an Indian doctor, a lady doctor in America. And she's a palliative care doctor by background. And she was asked by Ethan, now I can never remember his last name, but he had a glioblastoma, a brain tumor, and he didn't want to die in hospital. And I don't know exactly how he knew Dr. Aditi, but he asked her and said, help me to make this possible. I can die in community. And he wasn't able to die at home, which is one aspect that I'm very conscious of. If people don't have that ability for whatever reason, whether it's family or a home themselves, they have very limited choice. So Aditi made it possible, and there's a film called The Last Ecstatic Dance that shows, as other films around the world have shown in previous times, of his last days of living and dying well. He was a yoga teacher, a meditation teacher. So again, he had that level of coming into a presence of present awareness. And she equally herself is from an Indian background. And so she set about setting up the Center of Conscious Living and Dying. It's near Asheville in North Carolina. And when she recently spoke at a TEDx talk in Asheville, she started and ended the talk with the use of a harmonium. And so the Indian instrument that really resonates very deeply. So she ended the talk with mantra, Sanskrit mantra. And I think that actually spoke volumes for me. And I equally recognize, Florence, that won't speak to everybody. This vision is a vision that will resonate to some people and might not resonate for others. For others, they might want the safety of a hospital or a hospital. Or they might want to be at home with their loved ones. And if that's the case, fantastic. I feel there needs to be wider options for people.
Yeah. So I know you're planning one day to go and visit anyway.
Soon, hopefully.
Soon, hopefully.
Great.
Cool. Yeah, and so we had that conversation for the moment because you are only. I feel like saying you're starting. You're on a journey. So I put you as an advocate really for the conscious living and conscious dying, which I think is a beautiful role to have to awaken awareness and allow the conversation to go. And last night, and I'd love you to repeat this because I thought it was really relevant, because I'm a pragmatic one, so I like to work with what's in place. And you were discussing in the last role that you had at work, those last few days of community, of putting things together. But you said even more than that. You talk about the wellness actions, a wellness center. Will you let us? Because even what I love about this part is like, okay, there are miles and miles to there's huge bridges to go between what we have and where we want to go, but at the same time it has already started with action the way. So would you please share with us?
One of the things I think people over in Europe might not realize is Australia doesn't really have many hospices around the continent. It has a handful. What it does do very well is home, palliative care in people's homes or within a hospital context. And it does do very good research, and it's got some very good specialist people, but it's all very medical. So I was fortunate enough to create a role when I returned to England. It felt like it was very aligned. I moved to a specific area here in Hampshire, to be close to my mum. I found a fantastic school for my son here in the New Forest. And within the New Forest, this role was offered to me. And it's quite unique in the fact that around the country, there are wellbeing roles within hospices, but they tend to be much more clinical based, and they tend to be looking after people in a more clinical way. So mine actually was not that, although I'm still actually a registered nurse back in Australia and here in the UK. This really was taking the nurse hat off, and it was a drop-in centre, and it was well-being, but within the grounds of a hospice and Oak Haven. And it was for people that had lost a loved one, or people that are living with an illness, a life-limiting illness, say like dementia or a stroke or a cancer. And I helped put on services to bring joy and a sense of well-being into their lives. So I had great pleasure in connecting with local singing musical directors that I love connecting with, and movement teachers, yoga teachers, and other connections in the community. And I just love it. I just love that interwovenness of community and connection. So I feel like I one of my role names, if you like, is as a soul connector, community connector. And just towards the end of my role, I've just finished recently, early May, I put on an event, part of Hospice UK. They do a Dying Matters awareness, which is a discussion point where you have deep and meaningful discussions with your loved ones and family about what you like, maybe at your funeral, maybe what music you'd like, so we can get these conversations more consciously. So I was very aware that sometimes people still are very afraid of the dying word. They just still don't like that. So I put on a more integrative, positive approach. I called it "This is your life, plan it, enjoy it." And it was actually within a residential home. We had building works going on close to where I work, so it wasn't logistical on my site. So I went out again, connected with the community, and said, would you help host this event? And it was a very swanky care home, and we had celebrants and funeral woodland people, we had singing, we had movement classes, we had a beautiful artist who helped to weave a memory button, and we had people dropping by and the residents all interconnected. And we had all the facilitators coming together to connect in communities, so that we had the new lady who was doing an online digital memorial business locally. And that was her first market stall event, if you like, for the day. So she connected with local business people. So it's a way that we can all collaborate together in community. And at the end of the day, we had one of the celebrants who's a dance and yoga teacher up very, very flamboyantly singing and getting all the residents and the visitors up dancing together. And it was joyful. And my manager, who is a delightful lady, said, that was fun. It was inspiring. And it's those pivotal, interwovenness with positivity and,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
that we're all
Yes.
going to
It's
die.
not because you are sick or
Yes.
because you are dying that you are not allowed to laugh. Yes.
But one of the key things I said
Yes.
at the beginning of that day, I looked at the residents, they're all round in a circle, and I said, first of all, thank you for letting us come to your home. And then I looked them all in the eye and I said, we all have a story. We all have a story. And I acknowledged the land that we were standing on, because the slightly Australian part of me was going, it's very much, we acknowledge our ancestors, past, present, and emerging. And that's a part I really, really love the essence of, that we really acknowledge where we've come from, and to look at these mainly older women, but there was a couple of men there, these women in the eye and said, I acknowledge, I see you here today and the stories that you bring here. So that we didn't touch on that, but that's something that we can touch on, that these people have their stories to tell before.
Yeah. You were also saying that there was a doctor um, who also came and
Mm,
attended
mm,
and felt
yeah,
herself being nurtured by the
yeah, she
event,
saw a
isn't
different
it?
way. Yeah, she came out, you know, she came out of the hospice. We gave her a bit of rehab. She was in a boot because she'd broken her ankle, poor Dr. Beth. And I asked her to do a little welcome for the day, which she did very kindly. And at the end of the day, she thanked me. She said it was such fun
Yeah.
and joyful, and she saw a different perspective.
So you're saying like it basically benefits everyone
Hmm. Yeah,
ultimately, that those kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
practices.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
and
so.
they're just
That we're
they
all,
just
it's
yeah.
not
Go ahead.
that, it's not a hierarchical thing that people are looking to the doctors or the nurses to fix
Yeah,
them. We are all equal. We
yeah.
are all part of this, and we all have things. It's like the yoga teacher. The yoga teacher always learns from the student. The student always learns.
Mhm.
It's a reciprocal event.
Yeah,
You know, there is always something to learn from the person being present.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to offer, so if anyone here has a question, to put it in the chat, okay? And if not, I'll ask a last question, which I forgot now. Thank you, menopause again. Hold on, it's just, it's, oh God. Okay, so here you are. I said earlier on that you were an advocate. So, um, what step would you like? And I know at the moment your life is actually your personal life is moving as well, but you're going back to Australia. It's a place that you know. It's a place where you've already worked and you know the dynamic of the society. So it's not a complete brand new place for you. So where would you see your role, or where would you like your role to go? Not, I'm not asking you for any detail, and we're staying on a broad spectrum here. And how can you be supported? You know, if anyone is listening to that chat, how could they support Jude into her advocacy work? And I had a third one. Let's stop. Let's start with those two, and then we see.
Mm. I think what there's been a message through our discussions, and I think a theme that's come through for 2024 is that focus and tension this year. And
Okay.
so,
Yeah.
as a lovely Irish friend that we all know, Sharon, would say, we just stay in our own lane. It's very easy to
Yeah.
to get diverted down to something else. Because, for instance, I'm also very passionate and interested in human composting, which is, you know, a very interesting aspect of the dying and the death process. But it's probably an add-on, and it's probably something else. So I feel that these conversations and these chance to have um, you know, these conversations with people is important, to open the floor up to other people to share their experiences,
Mhm.
and their insights and their wisdom of what I know, when we had the conversation back on the 22nd of May, Kate very kindly shared her experiences, and
Mhm.
two other ladies did as well. Um, and I feel that it's also in-person events. Um,
Yeah.
I have this essence of shared meal. I think sometimes having a meal around a table, certainly, where I was working at the drop-in centre, we used to have lunches on a Tuesday, and it brought people together. And I think
Mhm.
if you can have that theme of bringing people together in that let's consciously talk about how this, you know, how this could develop. And it's very particular to the community and the culture that you would be in. You know, the one in
Mhm.
Asheville would be very particular to the climate, to the geography, to the economic,
Sure.
to the budget, to um, the culture there. Whereas obviously
Mhm.
what I hopefully will begin to create in Australia, or different parts of Australia maybe, will be very culturally different. I mean, Queensland and New South Wales are very different places, you know, they're all very different
mm,
entities.
mm.
So
Yeah, go on, go on.
I won't be doing it's a collaboration with that like-minded people. You know,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
me just being up there as a leader, it's a collaboration. Yeah.
Yeah, earlier on when you were talking about, the wellness event, and you had the movement person and the art person, and in my head I saw all those little trucks and people moving as a little circus, and and
Yeah,
just going from one hospice to another in
that,
a region,
it's
and
funny you
and
should say that,
moving,
because my
you know.
CEO Andrew, and my manager actually had a laugh and said we should get a well-being bus, and I obviously put my hand up and said, yeah, I'll have that one. It, you know, but you know, maybe something like that in Australia, you know, because of the vastness, to
Yeah.
have a drop-in cafe in the back and say, wouldn't this be nice? Wouldn't this be nice to come and talk at the back of the bus and have a
Mhm.
hand massage? I know in residential homes they're quite good on having well-being coordinators in residential places there, but it's more really breaking down those barriers of why do they have to be in elderly people's homes? You know, why don't we interlink with all the generations? You know, why do, because they're older they have to go off? We need to kind of, if they're well and they're able, or even if they're not able, we need to look at ways we can function differently in community.
Yeah, no,
So
definitely. It's a massive topic
yeah,
anyway, It's
it
just like, you know, just
is.
and very often, like, I said it yesterday, and I was talking about cancer for at that moment, but I think it can apply to many other field where people actually don't know how to behave and what to say. They
Mm,
are caught up with
mm,
a fear not to say the right thing, and it stops them and it blocks everyone, and I think that's, for me, it's something that I see as really, um, on one hand, what you said, silence is extremely important to give the space to the other, but if you come to someone to just there saying, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do, but
mm,
I'm here. And
mm,
even I think to teach people that it's
mm,
okay
mm,
not to know. It's okay
mm,
not to know what to say, not to know what to do.
mm.
Just admit it. I think it really helps
Yeah,
to um
yeah, and
to
it's
melt
okay to be
away.
afraid. It's okay to
Yeah,
be afraid.
completely,
Yeah,
completely.
it's part of the human experience,
Yeah.
isn't it? You know.
Okay. So I know Jude told me she confided yesterday that when she's moving, she's not moving too far from a Buddhist center. So she's going to go back to,
Yeah,
there's a bit of a loop, she starts at 10 reading those Buddhist book, and she's going to go back to
yeah,
transfer that
yeah,
energy
yeah.
to,
Exciting.
oh,
Buddhist temple, Buddhist monastery, and a Buddhist cafe.
that's it,
Yeah.
yeah, with the divine feminine energy and all that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Okay. Very good. All right. Okay. Do you have anything that you want to add on, or is
Yeah.
there?
I'm actually having my next online conversation on the
Go on.
21st of June, Friday the 21st of June. It will be 10 a.m. UK and Irish. It will be 7 p.m. over in Sydney time. I will be sending a link out via my Instagram account as soon as I land in Australia. I'm just playing with the old Zoom accounts on that one. So I'll send the Instagram link for everybody to keep an eye out on that if they'd like to join.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a free online event. And if you know of anyone that might be interested in it, any other connections with people, I've already connected with a few people over in Australia. The president of the National Death Advocacy, who actually, funny enough, used to live in the Blue Mountains, so another local girl.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just love the way we just interweave with all these beautiful connections around the world. So
Yeah.
yeah, be lovely to
We
see
are
your
whole human, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's
So
Christine Neff's self-compassion program. I really love Christine Neff, and she has one of the principles of a self-compassion program is the common humanity. So we are
yeah,
never alone. We understand at a basic level we all have the same needs. So
absolutely.
and that when we feel lonely, to remember that. Whatever we sense is more likely that we're not the only one to
Mm,
feel that way. That's a
absolutely.
nice,
Yeah.
yeah. When I post this little chat, I will have your detail as well, so people can find them below the video. And I have started putting those little videos on my YouTube channel, and I put them with the link for the Temple of Light and the link for the speaker. So this is another avenue where you can possibly touch people as well.
Brilliant.
So
I
yeah,
really
yeah.
thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
No, thank you. It was really good, and yeah, it was lovely. I really enjoyed because you came with a different angle for the chat, and that's what I want
Mm,
for women in the Temple of Light to understand that there is not only one model. Everything is welcome. The space is open. So what you said, give time, give space, and listen. You know, and
I think one last thing is I once somebody recently on an Instagram post said about being a ground worker. So I know we're all in the essence want to be light workers, but it's very interesting what she wrote very resonated for me as a ground worker. So to be
yeah,
very grounded into the earth. And I
yeah,
think that's
uh-huh,
very much part of that cycle of life and death, that grounded, uh, being quite a practical person and being okay with that practicality and in that
mm,
spiritual essence of being grounded and practical.
yeah. Yeah, I'm going to bounce on that because Alexandra and I went to the Magdalene again this year, and we had wonderful transmission by a woman. Alexandra knows her for a long, long time, called Viviane Marie. And on one of the so the 7 steps of ascendancy of Mary Magdalene, and one of the points she at one point in one of the oratory, one of them is about Mary Magdalene and Martha, and how Martha gets upset with Mary Magdalene, who does nothing, and Martha is doing everything. And it's exactly what you just, he's serving. But that is a role, that's her role as being the grounded light worker that she was when
Yeah,
Mary Magdalene had another light role.
yeah, yeah.
And
We all
it's
have
another
different
way
ways.
of putting the conversation, but it's exactly that
Yeah,
we all carry a light. It's how
yeah,
do we serve the light? Yes, yeah.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
very much
Yeah,
so,
that's
very much
very
so.
important. I think
Very nice.
very important
Yeah.
message. Thanks,
Yeah,
Lauren.
so that's really cool. And the very last thing, and it's nothing, is I need more volunteer. So if you know of anyone, who would find a desire in them to come and have that chat the way you've had tonight with me, the way Sue and Liz got them before, I'd be delighted to have a few more names to put in a basket. So that is it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Alison, for being present. Really good to have you. Kate and Cocotte, my Alexandra, same. And Jude, thanks very much, and best of luck with
Yes,
that.
thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, mind yourself.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.